Let's talk about Politico. This is one of the big stories happening right now. And for anyone who's not familiar, Politico published a couple days ago this big hit piece revealing the private group chat conversation of some young Republicans. And the young Republicans are not elected officials. They're not anyone that anyone's even heard of for the most part. There's one person in the group chat, apparently, who works in the Trump administration, who is not recorded having said anything. So he was in it, but as far as we know, he didn't say anything, quote unquote, offensive. But there were other comments made in the group chat, as Politico reveals, that were a lot of edgy jokes and a lot of offensive language that's being used in this group chat. And most of it, as Politico finally admits in the article, if you read all 57 paragraphs of it, they'll finally admit that, yeah, most of this is supposed to be a joke. Although they don't, of course, put that in the headline. And the title of the article has the quote, "I love Hitler." And when you look at the context of that comment in the group chat, it's very obvious that it is a joke. It's sarcasm, very much in line with the kind of sarcasm Republicans use all the time about, yeah, I'm real far right, I guess I love Hitler. Along the lines of me having theocratic fascist in my Twitter bio, which isn't entirely a joke, but it's mostly a joke. So this is this kind of breaks down a few different ways. And for me, the story here is not the group chat, because these are private messages between people that no one knows. These are not relevant people. And the only reason why the media is showing us this, the only reason why they're doing this is obviously it's a political hit. And in particular, they're trying to distract from the fact that the left has spent the last month, I mean, really much longer than that, but especially the last month, openly celebrating political violence. And now we have a attorney general candidate, who's probably gonna be the next attorney general of Virginia, who was in his own messages saying, not as a joke, that he wants his political opponents to die and even their children to die. And he was very specific that he was not joking about it. And so the left is looking to distract from that, and their way of doing it is by somehow obtaining these messages and putting them out to distract us. And some Republicans have been very quick to offer their denunciations, to say how offended they are, how horrible these messages are, that everybody involved should be fired, that they should never be allowed in politics again. I think that response is foolish. I think it gives the left exactly what they want. I have really appreciated J.D. Vance's response. Now, I think the vice president has struck exactly the right chord on this, because he's not going to play the game. And instead, what he's done is he has redirected the conversation back to the thing that the left is trying to distract us from. There's one reason and one reason only that this story exists, and it's to get us to stop talking about Jay Jones and the leftists who've been celebrating the murder of Charlie Kirk for the last month. That's the only reason that the story exists. And so J.D. Vance's point is, no, I'm not going to play that game with you. I'm not going to give you what you want. Instead, I'm going to redirect the conversation back to the thing that you're trying to distract us from. And I think that's exactly the right move. I think there's some disagreement about that, though. There's more to be said about it. But I'm going to go first to the guy who I think is most likely to agree with me, and that is Michael. Michael.
First, though, Ben, could you tell us about ExpressVPN?
I would love to tell you about ExpressVPN. There's nothing more I would love to talk about than ExpressVPN, like literally in the whole wide world. Because here's the thing. Michael Moles has not been using his ExpressVPN. So the way that I know this is that ExpressVPN is supposed to protect you against hacking. It's supposed to protect you against, people getting a hold of your data. And I'm not going to say that I hacked Michael Moles' email. I will say some material has come into my possession about Michael Moles' search history.
Hey.
Such as, and I have to say, it is deeply embarrassing, like truly embarrassing, like more embarrassing than that Politico chat. Apparently, he searched his own name 36 times in the last 2 days.
Certainly.
Apparently,
that's it.
He has, believe it or not, Thomas Aquinas fan fiction, which I didn't think was an actual category of fan fiction. I don't know who he's shipping there, but it's definitely weird. Mm-hmm. He's been searching nonstop about whether Starbucks is going to start serving pumpkin spice latte yet. Like, he will not stop with this crap. And worst of all, K-pop Demon Hunters ukulele covers. That is a thing that we can all expect sometime in the near future. So here's the thing, folks, don't let people like me get a hold of your data the way that I got a hold of Michael Knowles' data and then publicly embarrassed him, because ExpressVPN can protect you. It can, in fact, protect you. It's an app that encrypts 100% of your online activity and reroutes it through those secure servers. Third parties can't keep tabs on you. When I'm traveling, I've got ExpressVPN on all the time because I'm on airports or hotel Wi-Fi or whatever. Don't wait until it's too late, and don't be a dummy like Michael. The time to protect your data from the future is right now. Use my special link to get 4 extra months of ExpressVPN's privacy protection. Head on over to expressvpn.com/friendlyfire. That's expressvpn.com/friendlyfire to get 4 extra months of coverage.
Well, you're right, Matt. I totally agree.
Was it the swastika on his forehead?
Yes. Hey, listen, we're Italian, and Mussolini, he was a complex figure. My only take on this that probably has not been said elsewhere is even the fact that we're talking about the ideology of the far right and comparing the far right to the far left and, whether or not people like Hitler or whatever is actually kind of missing the point. I strongly suspect these messages were leaked by another young Republican. That has been reported. And having spent a lot of time with New York young Republicans, I promise you, this whole thing is about some petty personal grudge, and it's some power play within New York politics, and it actually has very little to do with the ideology or putative ideology of these texts. But I totally agree. There is no comparison whatsoever between some 19-year-old kid who's making edgy jokes trying to outbaste his friend in a group chat and a former state legislator, would-be top law enforcement official in Virginia, saying, as you note, Matt, that he is not joking when he calls for the death of his opponents and even the death of their children. So, yes, not at all. Now, the question then becomes, should we ever police our own? Should we ever have guardrails, or do we say anyone, to the right of Hillary is on our side? And I think the answer is obviously yes, there have to be guardrails. Just like a nation is circumscribed by its border, so too a political coalition is circumscribed. That's what delineates it as a specific coalition. But if the question is, how are we going to arrive at those guardrails? Are we going to say that anyone who ever, gets caught telling an off-color joke by Politico, they're completely cast into the outer darkness? No, I don't think that's right. I think we should have guardrails. We should police a coalition. And the way we should do it is very carefully. This was Scalia's answer when, as a student, we asked him, hey, where do you draw the limits on the Second Amendment? Where do you draw the limits on stare decisis? And everyone wanted a really ideological answer. And his answer was, very carefully. We kind of know, we're prudent, it's a people business. And should these kids have their lives ruined because they were mouthing off and telling jokes in a group chat? No, I don't think so. I think we need...
But we're not prudent. Here's the thing: we're just not. I would agree with you that quote unquote policing, you need to be prudent about how you police. I also think that everyone agrees. I would assume Matt included, and Matt, you told me if I'm wrong here, that there are certain things that can be said that social consequences should actually attend to. Certainly, that's true on the left, right? If you say that you want to murder the Speaker of the House and then calls the kids fascist, there should be social consequences that actually attend to that. I agree with everything you say about the difference between a private group chat between a bunch of young Republican idiots who are outbasing each other and the attorney general candidate in Virginia actually saying the thing running for office. Now, I will say, I don't think these people are kids. I don't think 31-year-old's a kid. I don't like using the sort of language of kids to describe people who really should be married and have children of their own by this point in their life. And I think the kind of loose playing with that term, as though if you're a 31-year-old, which is what one of these people was, that somehow this is the equivalent of being 17. I don't think that's true either.
But the YRs go down to 22.
I agree, but some of the people who are being quoted here are in their 30s, some are up all the way up to 40. I get it. Again, I'm not even disagreeing with the motivations of the Politico story. In fact, even on my show today, I talked about the motivations of the Politico story, which, Matt, I agree, are completely scurrilous and designed to distract from the sort of violent rhetoric we've seen from the left. But it has led to, I think, a reactionary response on some parts of the right to say there should be no policing ever at all. No social consequences should ever attend to things that are said on the right. That it's basically just pure my side versus your side. The problem I have is, number one, I think that's immoral, and number two, I don't think that's pragmatic. I don't think that's moral because I think that there are things that get said on the right that are really, really, really ugly, and pretending those away doesn't make them go away. I think that they're rising. I think that they're getting more common. I know that my death threats from that side are getting more common. I know I have more security because of that, and it's not just from the left. I have lots of security from the left, and I also get lots of security from the right. Matt, I think a little bit earlier today you tweeted that kind of your litmus test is the people who are trying to kill you, and I totally get that. I also have that litmus test. The difference is that I think that if somebody tries to kill you, Matt, there's a good shot that it's going to be a leftist. If somebody tries to kill me, it's a frickin' Agatha Christie novel. I just don't know which direction the bullet is coming from at this point, given the sort of various and sundry radical extremes that exist. I'm not going to say that the right is equivalent to the left in this respect, because I don't think it's been mainstreamed to nearly the same effect on the right that it has been on the left. But to pretend that it has not infiltrated a lot of very important spaces, I think is sort of whistling past the graveyard. Now, again, that's not about the Politico story. There's more of a broad commentary about where we are in the movement. And as a matter of sort of morality, we all have things where, again, I'm not saying cast into the outer darkness, right? I'm not calling for any of these people who I think everyone knows who I'm referring to, but I don't think I'm calling for any of these people to be deplatformed, removed from YouTube, or removed from Twitter. In fact, I've called for many of these people, Nick Fuentes, for example, to actually be returned to Twitter, despite the fact that we have some pretty significant disagreements, including the fact that he thinks that I and people like me are scurrilous, sons of Satan, or whatever, however he would put it. But that is a different thing from, is this person part of, quote unquote, the movement that I belong to? And the answer there is he doesn't think I'm part of the movement that he belongs to, which he's made very clear. And so that gets into the question of there's the morality of when someone says something bad, should you condemn it? And I think that as a general matter, you can do what Winsome Sears did, right? Winsome Sears is running against the attorney general candidate in Virginia. She was asked about the Politico chat. She says, yeah, that's bad. Now you do Jay Jones, which seems to me like a pretty good answer and a good way of policing. Well, and then when it comes to the pragmatic,
can I say
just Drew, you were in the group chat.
Yeah.
I mean, Drew, sorry, one more point on I just want to make one more point here, and then you can say whatever you want. On the pragmatic side, I fundamentally disagree with this idea that the reason that the right, quote unquote, loses is because we fragment while the left is unified. The left is losing because it unified around its crazies. Do not unify around your crazies. Sure, the crazies can vote for you. They can vote for your party. You can't stop them from doing that. It's a free country. But that doesn't mean that they should have like a decisive voice in the future of the movement, because if you do that, you end up with the trans movement running the Democratic Party, and you lose from here to forever. It's the Democratic solidarity that's destroying them, not the Democrats as a sort of fragmentary party.
So hang on, let me we'll go to Drew just a second. I just want to respond to two things there. And the first is, and I've heard this argument that, well, the left is losing because they failed to drive out the radical elements of their party. I think there's a false premise there, though. I don't think that's actually happening. I think, Mamdani, one of the most radical political figures we've ever seen in this country, is about to be the mayor of our largest city.
Because there are no Republicans or moderates in New York, man. I mean, Trump's been president twice, and it was the trans issue that killed Kamala Harris in the last election, because they won't stop doing the trans issue, which is the most extreme element of the party, including, obviously, what happened to Charlie.
Yeah. And the trans issue was a big problem for it. But that's another thing, too, is that when we talk about the sort of the quote unquote radical elements of the right versus the radical elements of the left, these are not exactly the same thing. The radical element of the left denies basic biological reality. I mean, you're militating against these basic realities that we all understand, and that's not happening on the right. There is no equivalent of that, of someone saying that men can have babies. Like there's no exact equivalent of that. But the second point on the Politico article itself, okay? Obviously, if somebody says something publicly and they've decided to announce it to the world, well, then that's fair game for anyone to disagree and anyone to say anything they want about it. But with that in particular, I think that in almost every case, if you are speaking in private, you're having a private conversation, and then somebody with obviously sinister intentions comes along and takes that private conversation and makes it public. In almost every case, my position is, and this has always been my position, I don't care. I'm not even paying attention to it. Okay, I am not going to dignify that. I'm not going to go along with it. I'm not going to give you what you want. I'm not going to reward that strategy. And by the way, part of that's a principled stand on my part. It's also, it's like a self-preservation thing. I don't want people doing that to me. I don't want people going through and revealing my private conversations, not because I'm saying those kinds of things, but because these are private conversations. Now, there are exceptions to that. One exception is if you're running for political office and you want to be the top law enforcement official in a state, and you've said privately that you think that half of your state should die. Well, that's one of those exceptions. And I think probably in general, if you're running for political office, that's an exception. There are things that become fair game that otherwise wouldn't be. But outside of those exceptions, I just fundamentally disagree with the idea that we should give these people anything that they want, or that we need to start now condemning things that were said in private in conversations that had nothing to do with us. We weren't involved. We don't have the context. They were not intended for any of us to even see in the first place. And should we police that?
So
I would say no.
I want to say this. First, I agree with everything that Matt is saying in its context, in the context that we're talking about. I don't see why I should care about these people on a private chat. I don't think private chats should be revealed. And when the New York Times is spewing out perversion and racism at a level that is far, far beyond anything these people are saying, and incitements to violence, I don't see why a private chat compares to the New York Times and the crap that they turn out every day. I also agree with Ben that nobody should be censored. I don't want to censor absolutely anybody.